This is the Happy Weight Podcast. My name is Aoife Dean. Thank you so much for pressing play and for being here. Today, I'd like to just kind of run through the BS that we need to call ourselves out on. Change is hard and change is boring at a lot of points. We can have a lot of impatience and frustration, but we have to be our own coach and we have to be our own mentor. And, part of being empowered is that we call ourselves out in our own BS. We're not victims. We're not weak. We know where we can improve and we spot it and we do improve. And that's how we will change. And just, I suppose I always like kind of maybe telling an odd food story from my own life. It's Saturday. I did a lovely talk in Ludgate last night. It was so nice. Ludgate is a co-working space that I use in Skibbereen, and it was International Women's Day, an event for that. And great crowd, great atmosphere, lovely people, met some really nice folk. And me and my mom was there and my sister-in-law Louise were there. And we got a Chinese afterwards and we went back to my brother's house and we had it. And Mum, in her wisdom, packaged up the leftovers. And how did she know? Because I woke up this morning then and I was like, all I want in life is those Chinese leftovers for my breakfast. So I had, I don't know, do they have them in your Chinese? But it's like battered chicken balls with curry sauce. Sorry, I cannot talk about Chinese without my mouth watering excessively. And salt and pepper prawns. So like the Drumleague Chinese has the best salt and pepper prawns. They are so gorgeous. And I was eating that. I was loving my breakfast. And sure, usual rules apply. Like, it's not how much calories is in food. It's how much calories is in food relative to your needs that day or that time of the day. So I wouldn't know that as well as my body. So, there wasn't enough to eat till I was over full anyways. There was only enough to just about do me. But then I just waited until I got hungry and I was actually starved for my next meal later on. So, that's just one of those times again where I just feel it all would have been different before, because before there wouldn't have been any Chinese left over anyway. I would have definitely eaten it. I would have gone to bed feeling really overfull. And I would have been very judgmental of Chinese. Like, that's the whole thing. When I had disordered eating, I was way more judgmental of foods. I was like, bad foods are so bad and Chinese shouldn't even be there and blah, 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 blah. And it was all just because I couldn't handle myself with the food. So Chinese or any food, it doesn't have to make you feel uncomfortable. Like, you can use any food to eat until your lovely satiety feeling in your belly, lovely feeling of satisfied and full and nice and everything. Or you can use literally any food to overeat. Like, I used to overeat a load of diet foods. Like, I was constantly having meals and snacks when I was overweight and I wasn't hungry. Like it does not have to be unhealthy food. Changes our weight. I think that's really important to say and kind of absorb, basically. But yeah, and I suppose another thing that happened this week is I got the 6:30 train up to Dublin and it was delayed and it got in at 10:30. I was starved alive and the only place open between Euston Station and my accommodation was this pizza place. So I just got some chicken goujons and it was what it was. But when I was eating them on my bed in the hotel, I was kind of thinking, if this was before, because part of disordered eating is that you always have plans, you always, you've maybe kind of planned out in your head what the day should look like food-wise, I'm going to stick to it now. I'm just going to have my 3 meals. I'm going to have my 2 snacks and I'm not going to have anything outside of that. And, or I'm not going to eat carbs, or I'm going to be within a certain number of points or calories or whatever. And it's just like this constant cycle of failure because life gets in the way. And the whole thing is, you don't have to be controlling to not overeat. You don't need to predict the future in order to not overeat. You don't need to eat certain foods or not eat certain foods in order to not overeat. And I'm constantly grateful. Like I'm literally grateful every single day that I don't have disordered eating anymore, because I've such vivid memories of what every day and every situation was like when I was obsessed with weight and eating and I was overweight. And that's the most annoying thing. It's like you're putting all this effort in. It's the wrong effort. Thinking is the wrong effort. Giving out to yourself is the wrong effort. Obsessing about calories, thinking about what you ate yesterday, what you should eat tomorrow. It's the wrong effort. It's draining you, but you're going nowhere. It's all just internally in your head draining you. And that's the whole thing. I can't believe the difference. I don't judge any food now. And I always trust my body. And it's so much less effort. And then to think that that's actually what causes a healthy weight. It still blows my mind how simple it is and how much I overcomplicated things actually by elbowing in with my own rules and my own shoulds and shouldn'ts and rights and wrongs and just all control when you look at it in a new light. So yeah, they were 2 stories from this week. And back to the calling ourselves out on BS, right? I experienced it myself, right? We can develop this new positive mindset with food and we can test drive it and we can have real life events that prove we can do it. So, we can go out for, a scone and a latte with our friends and be really normal when we would have been before abnormal. So before, we would have restricted, we would have wanted the latte or the scone, but not let ourselves have it, or eaten a protein bar or something just before the coffee shop to try and prevent us getting something we actually wanted, or eat it, feel really guilty. I remember lots of times as well that I was very distracted from the conversation because I was thinking about weight and calories and food and how bad this is and how I shouldn't be eating it and what do I need to exercise tomorrow in order to cancel it out. It really took away from the experience with the person I was with and of course with food as well. So, you might have built up these instances now, especially if you're a current client or a previous client, where you've proven to yourself that you can be normal with food. You actually have memories now of going home to family at the weekend or being at a weekend away or being in a posh hotel or, having a stressful week at work and actually being quite regulated with your food. Not really doing all the stuff they used to do. So you've proven that you can do that and you've proven that it's fun and it's much better than overeating. But then at a certain point, for everyone, I would say, me included, we can be like, okay, yeah, that was grand now. Can I just get the results and go back to how I was? Because this is constant change. I'm always reminding clients, we're all in the same boat. Our eating today is only as good as our mindset is today. I could change my mindset tomorrow. My eating would change. My weight would change. There is no safe line that you cross and now you can think whatever the frick you want to think. And what I mean? You can just do willy-nilly. You can be negative. You can control foods. You can give out to yourself for what you ate last night. You can judge yourself. There is no point where you can do all the stuff that doesn't work and it somehow work. And it's frustrating. I know it's frustrating. Sometimes I'm on calls with clients and they've hit a rocky patch, they've hit a bad phase, and I certainly know what they're capable of. I'm very good at remembering phone calls and consultations when it comes to all of this stuff. I have a great memory. And I remember 2 calls ago, everything they said of how well they were feeling and all the rest of it. But the thing is, there's always a difference in what we're doing in the weeks that are going well and the weeks that aren't going well. For instance, in a lot of times I'd have clients and when they're feeling really well, they're actively maybe listening to some of the hypnosis recordings I have in the members area. They're doing their affirmations. This is all very manual work. They're manually changing their brain. They're actively choosing to think positive thoughts about their body, to think positive thoughts about their future weight, to think positive thoughts about food and, be grateful for food. And they're choosing to be positive and connect with what their stomach and taste buds are saying. Because the weird thing is that the more down we get about our weight and the more we tell ourselves that we're not in the right place, we start doing exactly the thing that's going to cause a weight problem. So what's going to cause a weight problem is ignoring your taste buds. What's going to cause a weight problem is ignoring the fact that your belly doesn't want anything right now, or ignoring the fact that you're full, or not really waiting for hunger. So when we're in a bad place with eating and weight, when we're kind of telling ourselves, I shouldn't be here, I should have lost more weight by now, what's wrong with me, blah, 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 we are going to go back and do the one thing that's going to cause a weight problem, which is ignore our signals again. So like sometimes like I really try and be as loving and compassionate and everything to people, but sometimes, and I know we can all be in moods where we throw our toys out of the pram, but sometimes like people are in this place where they haven't manually changed their brain many times over the last few weeks. They haven't really done any affirmations, any gratitude. They've been up for thinking negative. Like they've been up for going into stories about doubting themselves, doubting their body, doubting will they ever change. And it's like you can't invest in all of that and then get the results of someone who's investing in a very different way of thinking. So even if it's the same client, like that very same client who really was, getting results, her body was feeling better and better, she was in a really nice place with food, she was in that space because of what she was thinking and what she was doing. And it would be really unfair on us, I think, if we were expecting to get those same types of results from being in a totally different headspace. That's not ever going to happen. And like there's a few ways we need to call ourselves out in our BS when we're kind of thinking like that, right? Because it's like, for me anyway, I struggled with dieting and disordered eating from the age of 11 to probably 30 was when I started figuring this out and, really fixing things. So what was I expecting kind of, in, I don't know, May 2013 or whatever, that I could be positive for 1 or 2 months and that would somehow undo and give me a completely different body than the last 20 years or whatever. Like, that's an unfair expectation. That's not really equal opportunities for people, because it's kind of like, what? So because I've been positive for a month or two, I deserve the body of, or the same body or the same healthy weight as people who've been positive for years? You know what I mean? Or have been more consistently positive over the last 2 weeks or the last 2 months or whatever. Because I think all of this is such a fine balance, right? Because our old way of looking at things would have been very prone to victim mindset, to go from being really horrible to ourselves to then the poor me, it's not fair on me, it's all bad luck and destiny anyways. Whereas now we have to be very compassionate, but at the same time, very realistic and honest with ourselves. And that's what I would have got with myself as well. I would have been like, in times when I felt like my body had kind of hit a wall, I wasn't feeling that good, or I was actually feeling heavier again or whatever, I could really be like, okay, Aoife, but what have the last 2 weeks been like? Have they been as positive as your other times? Have you been grateful for your body, or have you kind of dipped your toe into controlling again? And have you kind of dipped your toe into, putting a lid on calories tomorrow, or not eating bread during the week or whatever? Have you kind of dipped your foot back into the old way of doing it? Because it's like, well, that would explain it. We can't have the old mindset and get new results. And so I think that's something to be really clear on. And I suppose the thing is, it really does not matter. If we're feeling heavy today, it's like, look, what's done is done. Clearly something was wrong with the way we were looking at things over the last few weeks. Maybe there was times we were very down in our body, and generally someone who's very down in their body doesn't take care of their body as well as someone who loves their body. Someone who loves their body is looking out for opportunities to protect it. Really, when we hate our body, we're looking out for opportunities to sabotage it. So there's no possible way you could have been in a bad headspace with your body over the last few weeks and did tip-top amazing treatment of it. Do you know what I mean? So I think it's great to find solutions. It's great to find answers, because then we can be like, okay, I know what I need to do. I do need to heal that relationship with my body a little bit more this week. I have to stop being so unforgiving and judgmental about it. And for myself as well, I have to stop being so critical. Like, we have to be really honest with ourselves that, like, being critical, like, the easiest way to say it is being critical causes overeating. Like, if you have a history of emotional eating, being critical of yourself causes overeating. That's how I would see it. Like, for myself, like, especially when I was figuring this out at the start, I used to listen to people being really negative, and I used to listen to people being negative about food or their diet or whatever. And I'm like, oh, wow, best of luck to them, because if I did that, I'd be overeating, and I can't really afford to go back there. I can't really afford, and I don't want to go back to overeating. So because weight actually is really important to me, and my health really is important to me, I can't afford to be unsupportive of myself. I can't afford to be cruel to myself. I can't afford to be cruel in my thinking about my body or myself without expecting repercussions in how I treat my body. And I think all of that stuff is so, so, so important to remember. So we can click our fingers, and change your mindset. Like, that is the whole cool thing. You can spot the error of your ways at any point. You can realize, oh, wow, I actually did kind of slip back there over the last few weeks. And you know what? I actually do need to listen to a few hypnosis recordings, or I need to do a few affirmations, or I need to do a gratitude journal, or I need to get my head in gear again for the person that I'm becoming. I need to start connecting again with my goal, the person I will be when I do have a great relationship with food and I do have the body that I want, because I've forgotten her. I haven't been her that much over the last 2 weeks. So there's no way my behaviors and my body would feel like hers, if that makes sense. So another thing I think that's really useful to remember is that your body today is a manifestation of previous thoughts. And right now it could be a mix, because your body might be in a better place than it was. Like, you might have already lost some weight or gained some weight, or whatever your goal is. You might have already improved on where it was. So that's the evidence of the new thoughts taking root and starting to manifest in behaviors and results. But we might have 3/4 of our weight. That's still a reflection of all the kind of thinking we were doing 2 years ago about our body. And like, I would put all my money on it that you do remember being negative. You do remember the times being like, I'll never lose weight, so I might as well eat at this anyway. Or, you know, who am I kidding? I'll always be overweight. Or all the kind of meals or breakfasts or lunches or dinners you absolutely know you didn't need to eat. You weren't enjoying them. You felt really overfull or heavy after them. Like, you remember that stuff. And I was saying it to a client the other day, because she's had a really rough period over the last few months. And like, you know, your body isn't kind of like, oh, are those extra calories because you're going through an emotional time? Oh, right, so I won't cause any weight gain with those calories. Like, our body is you know, is just maths and science. Like, it has to store weight if it gets extra. Like, it doesn't matter why we have the extra, whether we're emotional or we're busy or someone died, or the cause doesn't matter. Our body is just responding to the calories that we give it. But with that girl anyway, I was kind of reminding her, you've had the crappiest few months. So like, just keep in mind, you don't want to replicate those months anyways. Like, if those months hadn't have caused weight gain, like, I don't think that's the relationship with food you want anyway. It sounds like you had a terrible time with food, and there was a lot of unnecessary eating, and there was a lot of times where you were uncomfortable or heavy or under-exercised. So just remind yourself, there's no worry that you're going to continue in that vein, because you didn't enjoy any part of it. So I think it's so important to almost like, if our weight is a certain way, think about the time that created that weight, because especially with overweight and gaining weight or rapid weight gain, I have yet to meet anyone where it's a great crack time. Anyone. Like, it's nearly always burying our feelings. It's nearly always stuffing emotions down. It's nearly always distraction from changes we need to make to our life or to our day or whatever. Like, it's never really positive. Like, making yourself heavier, uncomfortably full with food is never really positive. It's never coming in a like, we're never doing that a lot in a positive time in our life. So, like I said, whenever your body is feeling a certain way, start like charting back to what were the last few weeks and what was the general vibe and the general mood that caused it. Because I guarantee you, if you're not liking how your body is physically feeling and you track back to how you've been mentally or emotionally dealing with stuff lately, you don't want to keep that up anyways. You do want to make changes in how you mentally and emotionally feel every day. And, you know, and like I said, a lot of the time, yeah, life gets in the way and other people are annoying or whatever, but a huge source of a lot of our pain is our own judgment and our own criticism. So if you're at a point where you're like, my body is not really feeling that nice, track back over the last 2 or 3 weeks and just ask yourself, like, have you been kind of pretty critical on yourself? Have you been pretty judgmental? Because that's a very different way of approaching you, your life, your body, than someone who's encouraging, compassionate, supportive. So to change your body, to change your behaviors, we need to turn into a person now that is compassionate in the face of challenges, rather than like, yeah, it was an awful day, but why didn't you go to the gym after? Or something like that. Just, you know, ridiculous expectations on ourselves. So that's always something to kind of, I suppose, measure. So you get clarity on the stuff that you do need to do, the way you do need to think and feel and go about your day for the day to work, for your eating and your relationship with food to work. And so I think that's an important one. And so I said that the body is a manifestation of past thoughts. And so what we can think with that is like, just drop your weapons. Stop the fight over like, well, should you have eaten more or should you have exercised more over the last few weeks and should you have done better and what's wrong with you? And just drop all the weapons, draw a line under it. Like, in the most basic way of looking at it, all that ever matters, no matter what weight you are, no matter what your goal is, whether you're maintaining, losing, gaining, whatever, whether you have a pound to lose, whether you have 100 pounds to lose, it's how are you currently feeling? How are you currently feeling? Physically, emotionally, how are you currently feeling? And what would you need to do in 20 minutes time to feel incrementally better than this? And once you've put those 20 minutes behind you, the game starts all over again. Now what do you need to do from that point to feel better again? And we need to take this in baby steps, because baby steps make you very accountable and very honest. So say, for instance, you or me in the next 20 minutes, I couldn't get off the phone here and then be like, anyways, so off I go thinking back on what I ate over the last 24 hours and seeing how wrong it was and seeing how I'm definitely losing it and I'm definitely going to get fat and I'm definitely going the wrong direction. Like, I couldn't do that because that's not going to make me feel better in 20 minutes. So like, us being very clear on, well, I have to feel better in 20 minutes. So if I go down the bunny hole of, I don't think I've been good enough this week, you're like, does that make you feel better in 20 minutes though? Like, when you tell yourself that my eating wasn't good enough this week and my exercise wasn't good enough this week, do you feel inspired in 20 minutes time? Do you feel a bit more well rested, more refueled, whatever? Probably not. So that's where we have, like, I suppose, mindfulness and being present. I don't think there is any way to be mindful and present without being very accountable We're being very accountable for our behaviours and how we're treating ourselves and treating our body. And then we can pull the wool over our own eyes, because then we're more aware of, I actively thought in a way that I knew was going to upset me. Like, I actively bullied myself there for a little while, or I actively was very negative about my body there for a little while, or, you know, whatever. I ate in a way that I knew I wasn't enjoying it, and I knew I wasn't going to feel good after it, but I did it anyway. So that accountability is huge. And you see, the thing is then, you will never, ever, ever, I think, talk about tomorrow or next week, like, you know, oh, I'm going to do so much exercise tomorrow or whatever, because it's like 6:30 here when I'm recording this now, and I'm like, geez, there's a lot of time before tomorrow, though, you know what I mean? Like, between now and say when I go to bed at 10:30 or whatever, 4 hours, like 4 hours could go in any direction. Like, I could be feeling amazing by the end of these 4 hours, or I could be feeling awful by the end of the 4 hours, but there's hundreds of micro decisions in 4 hours, hundreds. So why would I be thinking about, oh, I'm going to go for a cycle on Thursday, or I'm going to wake up every morning and go to the gym? Like, that's not real life. That, like, us in our head imagining what we'll do next week has nothing to do with helping your body. Ever, 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 ever. So it's like, whenever you find yourself planning like that, get back to the here and now and actually do something. Do something small. Do something imperfect, but that moves the needle, that like just allows you to feel physically or mentally or emotionally better in 20 minutes time. And that's real life. That's real change. Like, and that's the whole thing. Once you actually get the hang of like being mindful, staying present, etc., you realize, do you know what? The workload is never going to be that big. It's never going to be that big, because the workload actually of letting go of weight is realizing, you know, I'm full, so I leave those 2 scoops of mashed potato or whatever. That's it. So it's, you know, you still had a gorgeous dinner. It still tasted lovely. You feel amazing. You feel way better than you would if you finished the potatoes and then felt over full. So there's no massive loss there. Nothing too hard about that. And then other little things, like you could be like, I really think I could benefit from feeling some kind of muscle in my body. So, you know, maybe I will go for a swim, or maybe I'll go for a 10-minute walk, or maybe I'll just get the fresh air of a 10-minute walk. And it's like, you know, in that moment, going for a 10-minute walk might be achievable and doable. And the big difference is you actually done it. It's not like saying, oh, I'm going to exercise so much more next month. It's like, no, that's just a fantasy. That's just a storyline. Your thighs, your body in no way benefits from that storyline. But your thighs, your body does benefit from you actually going from a 10-minute walk today. Just a roundabout way of saying that, like, just really praise yourself when you're staying accountable and present, and you're staying in today, and you're only working on today. You're only working on feeling better in 20 minutes time. So, bit of a ramble again today, but I hope you found that helpful. And by the way, I am doing this podcast because I also have a business. The business is happyweight.ie, and I deal with people one-to-one. Usually I work with people for 3 months plus, like kind of in an intense way for the start of it, maybe like 2 calls a week or 2 consultations a week or whatever, really getting people up and running with the new mindset. And I just love helping people get to the other side of all of this. Like, it is so worth the work. It is so worth the effort. And at the moment, I'm incredibly proud of all the clients I have, because, you know, like a lot of them, well, all of them actually, probably all of them listening to this podcast are not on any GLP-1 inhibitors. Like, they have lost the same weight or more weight than people I know in the same amount of time who've been on those medications. And I'm pro those medications, by the way, but just really think there's plenty of evidence as well that we can do this work. We can do this work. We can change how we're thinking, how we're behaving with food, our whole life with food, our whole relationship with food, our whole relationship with ourselves, our body, everything. We can do the work and we can change it. It is possible. So yes, check out my website, happyweight.ie, and please give this podcast a little 5-star rating if you could, and a follow. Thanks so much.